fight show with, I don't even know why I call it a fight show. Obviously, we could call it a fight show because it's the only fight in town tonight, right? Which is WrestleMania night number one. Okay, WrestleMania 41, night number one. And, well, great event. It was all right. I don't want to say it's great. It was all right. There were other WrestleManias that I would say are a whole lot better than this one. Now, night two could obviously top everything. What's good? Big Egg MMA, shout out to you, my man. Always the first one in here. Shout out to you. By the way, I saw some of your comments while we were on live stream. Yeah, it was a good match. Gunter was a good match. I was a bit surprised of why they decided they wanted to make that fight as the first fight of the night. I don't know what the reason was behind that. Maybe because they sort of wanted a certain pacing, right? Like, for example, if you want a certain pacing where, let's say, okay, you know what, we're going to do a feel good right now, and then we're going to have a bad story afterwards, right? And a feel good afterwards and a bad story afterwards. I think it's a little bit of those combinations that I think they were trying to go for. And I think this is what the WWE goes for every time. Toxic Gameplay says, I met this little streamer from Ethiopia. I think I'm going to send. All right. That's quite disclosive of you, Toxic Gameplays, to share that. But nonetheless, that is an interesting take that you're going to do. All I got to say is good luck to that, my man, and all the best of luck to you. I hope you enjoyed WrestleMania tonight. It was all right. It wasn't the best WrestleMania. Obviously, there's two nights to do it. Tomorrow could be a better one. And then I woke up and slapped myself. Okay, good. That's a good one. That's a good one. Toxic Plays. Well played right there, right? You put me in a situation where I had to read something where I had to be concerned for you. And then, just to my own suspicion, yeah, man. Bro, I love your workout streams. Very focused. Thank you, my man. Thank you. I really appreciate that. You know what? I've been training like that for decades, right? So whenever I actually now put it up, a lot of people are surprised. They're like, "Oh my goodness, I can't believe like you really train like that." Well, why not? I mean, I've done all types of combat sports growing up. I've done different types of activities along the way, so it wouldn't be out of the line of trajectory that I'm in to sort of do things like that. I steal the whole one plate barbell press thing from you. Oh, okay. Yeah. Where you do this and that, right? It's very good for the hips and this and that. Mr. Baldy says, oh, hi. Monkey says, hi. Hi, everybody. Everybody's tapping in right now. Everybody, don't forget to like and subscribe because we are about to talk about why Turki Al Shiekh and Dana White was at the WrestleMania Night 1 event. Toxic Gameplay says most sportscasters are Poindexters, though, man, they never fought. It's like I know you could beat the dog-ish out of Ariel Hawani. Well, you know what? That's true, right? Because it's rare when you find a fighter or somebody that is a trained fighter that has a love for journalism as well. And obviously, I sort of fit the bill of journalism. I mean, because look, that's the literal degree that I, was under, right? I could do that for a profession, but I do this as a YouTuber. And then on the other side of journalism is public relations, which obviously is a sector that I've sort of delved into. So Top Clips USA says, which generation of wrestling is your most favorite? I think everyone that is my age, I'm 39 going into 40. So that means that I grew up around the DX era. They had Shawn Michaels tonight. I think, give a shout out to Triple H for getting the Hall of Fame in. So it was that era. I think it was everybody's era. Remember the DX chop thing or this and that? How many kids our age that were around that time, got in trouble for doing that, in middle school, right? Obviously very juvenile of us, but yeah. Toxic Gameplays, go bald and grow a mustache, maybe Iron Sheik style. Man, yo, Toxic Gameplays, I'm going to tell you, man, I try not to laugh. Okay, like I mean, obviously, do I laugh? But I don't try to show, um, certain emotions like that. I mean, getting angry is one thing. Let's say if somebody pisses me off enough in a stream or whatever, but to actually make me laugh, right? Like that actually made me laugh about what you said. Go bald, grow a mustache, and maybe Iron Sheik style, right? Well, here's the thing, right? Iron Sheik is Iranian. He's Shia. I don't even know if he's a practicing Muslim, Sunni, or Shia. But they decided to sort of give him this Arabian feel to him. Because if you look at the headscarf that he wears, right, it's an Arabian headscarf. And I don't know how that's correlated with somebody being Iranian, because obviously they have a different stilo, a different get down to them. So I don't know, man. I don't know. But speaking of Middle Eastern uh, figures, why was Turkey Al Sheikh there tonight? Now, I have some uh, various suspicions as to why. Obviously, there's the Grand Prix Riyadh season boxing tournament going on right now. Totally unrelated to that. But again, this kind of shows you the different spectrums and the different sectors that Turkey Al Sheikh is a part of. Now, if you understand Arabic or of an Arabic speaking origin, or somebody that understands the language, and you have him as a social media friend or somebody that you follow or something like that, you often notice that Turkey Al Sheikh has various things beyond boxing, beyond MMA, beyond professional wrestling, right? He delves into Arabic films, he delves into Arabic music, he delves into different types of musical acts that come into Saudi Arabia to perform. So there's a whole lot of different uh, array of subjects and array of situations that Turkey Al Sheikh is up on. Uh, Toxic Gameplay says Turkey Al Sheikh is good for boxing. I agree, but I think Riyadh season is being ran at a major profit loss. Correct. And again, this is the reason why they sort of brought Dana White into the TKO boxing, right? So when Turkey Al Sheikh and the Saudis came into boxing, their whole entire prerogative was that, you know what, man, this is what we're going to do. Okay, our whole entire prerogative is we're going to promote Saudi Arabia at all cost. At all costs. So obviously they're losing profit margins, right? They're not gaining back anything that they're investing because they're overpaying people. But what they are actually paying for, Saudi Arabia in general, is they are paying for the glory of their country. And every country does this, just like in the Olympics that's coming up in 2028, which is going to be taking place in LA. Now, what is the purpose of all that? It is to bring glory to America and to Los Angeles and all its illustrious history. That is the reason behind it. Now, Saudi Arabia is no different than that. The German painter in the 1940s was no different than that. If you remember, he hosted an Olympic event where Jesse Owens had won. I believe it was, a Berlin Olympics somewhere in the 1940s or so. So that's what we have going on. It's not so much of a loss in terms of a business. It's more of a gain for the Saudis in terms of, how do I say this? Uplifting the image of their country. Okay? Now, here's the thing that I need you to understand about Saudi Arabia that a lot of people don't know, right? Yeah, publicity. That's right. Toxic Gameplay. That's correct. And then Toxic Gameplays also says the German painter and Jesse Owens. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So, believe it or not, that made that country look good. Like, look, we allowed this man to come here and compete fair and square with no issues whatsoever, right? That was what he was trying to convey to the world. Well, anybody that's hosting a sporting event, that's what they are trying to do. So now, bringing in Dana White to the TKO situation, right? It's a little bit different, and let me tell you why. it's different because now that you're bringing Dana White into the situation, he is going to budget, he is going to bring your money back, and he is going to, unfortunately, underpay the fighters in a way that is not being overpaid to the way that Turki Al Sheikh has, let's say, overpaid the likes of various fighters that you've noticed that have fought under him. So that's what you have going on in this situation. You have a situation where now they want to actually make money out of it. And now bringing Dana White into the whole TKO thing, you look at the pay structure, it is an absolute joke. As a matter of fact, let's take a look at the TKO boxing payout scale. Let's see. Okay, so this is according to Yahoo Sports, okay? And obviously this has all been verified. Yeah, Usyk and Fury both made like 50 million apiece. That's correct gameplay, but if you look at all the other fighters that are in the undercard, I don't know if you can say the same thing. Maybe you can. I mean, obviously that kid that fought Shakur Stevenson, the English guy, he got paid pretty well. The guy was a carpenter. He was working a full shift that week that he got called in to fight Shakur Stevenson. And the next thing you know, Turki Al Sheikh bought him an entire house with without having to pay any mortgage for it. I mean, he owns it for life. And then on top of that, a salary, and the guy gets to keep his job as an electrician. Yeah, the electrician who got his lights put out. How poetic. Oh, man, that's good, man. That's some bars right there. Toxic gameplays, man. Toxic gameplays. You rap, man? Because I swear, that's some bars right there. So let's take a look at the payout scale, okay? 10-round fighter. 10-round bout of any unranked fighter. You know what you get? $20,000. Okay? When ranked by a company at a number, $50,000. When ranked by a company by another number, I don't know what that means. Maybe like you're getting ahead in the company at that point, $125,000. When challenging for a company championship, $375,000. When defending the company championship, just about under a quarter of a million, close to $1 million, so $750,000 when defending the company championship. Look, man, that sounds like the UFC pay scale in a nutshell. So you're telling me 20,000, that's what you get as a 3-round fighter UFC debutant. Toxic Gameplay says, yeah, that's ridiculous, low for a boxer. It really is. It really is. So the idea that boxing is going to pay more than, let's say, MMA, I mean, not so fast. I think there's something even there. I think when they mean that boxing pays more than MMA, they mean at the top level, just like what Toxic Gameplays here says about what did he say here about Fury and Usyk getting 50 million apiece, right? 50 million apiece they both got, and that's ultimately the reality of a high level boxing, right? Especially if you're well known. Obviously, Tyson Fury is already a well known name, so it's given that he's going to be in that kind of situation. But yeah, that's what you got going on. And also, another reason why Turki Al Sheikh was there that night, I think he is going to collaborate with the WWE. If he hasn't already, they have plenty of times, even before the whole Riyadh season thing kicked off. Toxic Gameplay says at that level. He also says, Toxic Gameplays, Jake Paul over here paying Amanda Serrano $7 million a fight. Is he really? Is that confirmed? Is that a confirmed number? Toxic Gameplays. Fresh Lemon Juice says UFC is top level and should be compared with the big money. UFC is top level and should be compared with the big money. Do you mean that UFC guys should make as much as boxing because they are at a top level at a very difficult sport? Is that what you mean, Fresh Melon Juice? Let me know on the next comment if that is what you meant. But yeah, if that's the case, I will say that I agree with that to a certain extent. I think that when you're fighting MMA, you're fighting a much more dangerous sport. Okay, and the skills that are involved in competing in this dangerous sport, I think honestly, uh, well, you know what? I think you should get paid handsomely in that regard, right? I think you should get paid more than boxers, right? Because there's hazardous duty pay that's involved in that. But I'm not Turki Al Sheikh, right? If I was, I would pay the MMA fighters more. But I think also you got to take into high consideration that Turki Al Sheikh is a boxing guy himself. Toxic Gameplay says she got paid more than 6.1 million. Her opponent was paid. Okay, so Melon Juice says yes. They are not rookies. Who do you mean? The new guys that are going to come into TKO boxing that are getting $20,000 in their first 10 round fight, or you mean the UFC guys? Let me know on the comment section below. So yeah, before all of this kicked off, obviously the Saudis were already involved in Riyadh season. In fact, they even brought in Tyson Fury to do a wrestling match against Roman Braun Strowman, if you remember. This guy named Braun Strowman. I don't know if you guys remember him, but yeah, he was there. And let's see. What did he Toxic Gameplay says here? I see this as a way for them to build their name up with TKO, then break off like Ngannou did and fight those high paid fights. Okay. It says the UFC are the absolute top of MMA. Yeah, that is true. They are the absolute top of MMA, and there is no one else that tops them. Guys, I'm going to need you guys to do me a favor. Just hit the like button for me, and also hit the subscribe button. We just hit about 730 subscribers now. Obviously, on the road to 1,000 subscribers. Hopefully, I'll get there soon enough so that I can get paid for a lot of these ads, which, I mean, it's already, in that works. So why is Turkey trying to reinvent the wheel, man? Well, you know what it is? Turkey is a fan like us, right? And please, you guys hit more like buttons and share buttons. And then I'm going to tell you why is it that Turkey is reinventing the wheel, as what Toxic Gameplays here says. So he's not okay. He is trying to reinvent the wheel, right? But he's reinventing the wheel due to the fact that he's a fan like us. Now, you look at Joe Rogan's interview with Ilya Tapora. What did he say to Ilya Tapora? He said, well, he said this multiple times. I'm very surprised that people are now baffled by Joe Rogan's recent statements. He's been saying this for a long time, but he's just saying it in a long form to where it was very difficult to catch him, or no one really clipped it for them to make an issue about it. But Joe Rogan said that he would want a basketball court as a fight and have these imaginary lines. He would say that you're not allowed any stand-ups. If, let's say, you ended the round, you being on the ground, you start the next round being on the ground with no stand-up to begin with, because, I mean, it's that's just the mind of Joe Rogan. That's what he wants. If he had the resources and the power to create a fighting league like that, or create the UFC like that and make it the #1 MMA league in the world, he could absolutely do that if he had the money and the power to do so. Fast forward, Turkey is an oligarch. He literally owns an entire country. He literally is a world leader who owns a country and is a fan of boxing. So what he's doing is no different than what any of us would do if we were in a position of power. The only difference is that maybe we don't have outrageous ideas, just like most of these other billionaires that own all these other fight leagues and all these other promotions. Obviously, a lot of them don't have insane ideas. They just go with a linear path, right? But then once in a while, there is this one guy that comes along that throws his money around and does something creative and does something different, or as what Toxic Gameplay says here, reinvent the wheel. And who is that exactly? Take the ONE FC president. What's his name? What is his name? I forgot how to pronounce his name, but uh, fuck, I forgot how to pronounce his name. It's a Thai name. But you know what? Chatri, I'm sorry. Chatri, okay, he reinvented the wheel. Who would have thought about the idea of having a kickboxing match and a cage MMA fight all in the same event? Obviously, we had something like that here in Northern California back in the 2010s, 2011s. We had situations where we had a Muay Thai fight and an MMA fight all in a cage. And now ONE FC is doing that. That's something that is reinventing the wheel. And then on top of that, he just threw grappling in there. And then he throws regular kickboxing on top of Muay Thai boxing with MMA gloves. So he literally is reinventing the wheel, and he has the money to do so. And it just so happens that the guy who wants to reinvent the wheel is none other than Turki Al Sheikh. And then Toxic Gameplay here says Turkey should get rid of the standing 8 count while he's at it. I mean, you know what? He was trying to get rid of the judges' scorecards during the Hamza Shiraz fight, right? So, you know, why not just? I'm not going to speak on that. I mean, shout out to Saudi Arabia, shout out to Turkey Al Sheikh. But anyways, Aiden Ross just did one boxing, MMA, kickboxing, and the Island Boys got knocked out. Yeah, so there you go, right? Aiden Ross has the money to do that, so he decided he's going to put on an amateur event. But with Turkey Al Sheikh, his money is anything but amateur, so he wants to go to the max with that. Carlos Adames won that fight clearly. You know what, man? I got to tell you, that's really interesting, right? Because Hamza Shiraz recently just mentioned how he dropped everybody out of his team. He got rid of Ricky Fuentes, who, by the way, is a top trainer out here in California. And then he started going with Andy Lee. I thought that was an interesting choice. I'm an island boy, and I'm trying to make it. Playboy says, all right, well, shout out to Playboy, man. One of my regulars that's in here, man. How are you, man? How is everybody tonight, man? Did you guys enjoy Wrestlemania, or was it a little bit lackluster? I think it was a little bit lackluster, and judging by the comments and judging by what everybody out there is saying, I think we can all agree to that. Let's hear what Joe Cronin is saying on his side of the show right now. Shout out to Joe Cronin. He shouted me out the other day while I was in his live stream. So he's got a poll out right now. WrestleMania 1 was amazing, okay, blah, or bad. I'm gonna go with okay. Yeah, I'm gonna go with okay. I'm gonna vote okay. Okay, so I am the majority of here. 46% say that it was just okay. Let's hear what Joe Cronin has to say here.
It's all like said 1, 2, 3, and the match is over. Like no care.
More for the Royal Rumble. Yeah, you know what? The Royal Rumble is exciting, isn't it? Toxic gameplays, right? You don't know the type of people that are coming, but I think there is an element of surprise as well that you could get out of the WrestleMania. Like for example, tomorrow Randy Orton was supposed to fight Kevin Owens, but obviously Kevin Owens could not make it. So here we are. Who do we have? We have whoever. Randy Orton against whoever. So
ass fuck. How about stop laughing? Stop.
It's understandable, man. I want to hear from you guys what you think. And the poll is up, so
let's hear what Joe Cronin said in the very beginning. By the way, anything that is wrestling related, I go to this guy, right? Joe Cronin. I think he is the MMA guru of pro wrestling.
in Rollins with
Free Kane, send me location, brother, Playboy says.
Paul Heyman now. Again, like I said, most people kind of predicted that. That's exactly what happened.
Yeah, a lot of people predicted that Paul Heyman was going to betray somebody, right? It was like one of those things that you sort of saw coming, right? Which is really strange. You saw it coming from Paul Heyman. Toxic Gameplay says, it's crazy how wrestlers sustain so much injury to the body and the brains. People say it's fake, and Dave Schultz moments happen. People say it's fake, and Dave Schultz... yeah, it's not fake at all. I think the brain trauma that a lot of these guys go through is probably worse than combat sports.
One was, well, it was something. If you guys can, please drop a like, leave a like. CM Punk's in the ring laughing on camera during WrestleMania. That's not a.
Dave Schultz slapped that dude so hard. Oh yeah, he did. I remember that. I remember that. Well, I mean, I don't think I was even born around that time, or even coherent at a certain age. But yeah, I do remember that.
Good look. The referee whispering something in his ear and Punk laughing. Caught that on camera. That doesn't look so good.
You know, here's an interesting take, right? A lot of MMA fans at some point were former pro wrestling fans, especially people that are within my age group.
And ladies and gentlemen, I also want to say before we start this show, we let the alerts go out to everybody that I am live. I hope you guys can share this and like it.
People think it's fake. Wrestlers don't get medical attention, and we get Chris Benoit. It was crazy here in a GA. That's right. Is that where all of that took place? Right. I think he had a house down in Georgia, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And I think that he's been having a house there ever since his WCW days. And I guess he never left. Right. Because I know that. Yeah. Fayetteville, Georgia. Okay. So yeah. You know that I think that stems from the days that he used to be in WCW. And Chris Benoit, man, Chris Benoit was absolutely amazing, right? Like, you want to talk about shocking. If there were any guys that you would have had to predict or guess in the world of wrestling who was going to do something so heinous like that, Chris Benoit would have been the last guy in your mind. So maybe the CTE and the lack of medical attention that he got is probably the reason why all of that had happened to him. But nonetheless, man, it was tragic to say the least. A very tragic situation, unfortunately. And I remember when that happened too, right? It was 2007. Vince McMahon was doing a storyline where they were going to frame Bobby Lashley as the guy who bombed Vince McMahon's limo. And a couple of days later, they're like, listen, we're going to have to cancel Monday Night Raw because this happened. Chris Benoit did this and that. I was like, wow. Yeah, it's sad they removed his page on the WWE website and also refuses to post his matches on YouTube. Randy Orton was the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time, correct? Do you know who Randy Orton beat to become the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time in the WWE? You know who he beat? Chris Benoit. Okay, now when you think of John Jones becoming world champion, who do you think of? Shogun Rua. When you think of Francis Ngannou becoming world heavyweight champion, who do you think of? Stipe Miocic. When you think of Buster Douglas becoming a world champion, who do you think of? You think of Mike Tyson. When you think of Holyfield becoming undisputed champion or champion, who do you think of? You think of Holyfield. But for some reason, most hardcore WWE fans cannot tell you how Randy Orton became the youngest world heavyweight champion of all time and how he became the world heavyweight champion, the youngest ever, was beating Chris Benoit. So keep that understanding, okay? They treat him like Voldemort, man. It's so terrible. So here's the thing, right? You know who has the most fights in MMA? Who has the most fights in MMA? This guy named Travis Fulton. Okay, you know about Travis Fulton, right? You know what? You know why you will never know about Travis Fulton? Well, for one, I don't think he fought in the UFC ever, but the guy had over 22 MMA fights. So he had a record of like maybe 256 wins and I don't know, maybe like 11 or 50 losses or something like that. So yeah, he had over 320 fights in MMA and also has the most wins and most fights. Most wins and most fights of all time. And he was a heavyweight. He could do that. He could fight every week if he wanted. So it was easy for him to build up a record like that. But you'll never hear his name etched in the history of MMA. You want to know why? Because the guy got caught being a pedo, and then he died in jail, I believe, because he unalived himself, supposedly and allegedly. So what Chris Benoit did, it was horrendous. He killed his wife and his kid. So the WWE had to do something. They had to play. They had to play. They had to play it safe. That's what they had to do. Let me get my WWE belt out for this one right here. So they had to play it safe.
Gotta click the like button to help us out. But on top of all of that, really quickly, I just want to say
That's right, toxic gameplays. They had to get in front of that situation. And you know what? As somebody that understands PR and has studied it in college, I'll tell you this is the MO that they do. This is what they have to do. They cannot put Chris Benoit out there to any degree. Now, I think that's a shame because it sort of hurts other people in the process. Because in wrestling, just like in MMA, in MMA, do you ever notice that the guys that have fought each other usually pick each other in future fights? You look at Israel Adesanya, he always picks Alex Pereira to win, and the same thing with Alex Pereira, he always picks Israel Adesanya to win. Why? Because if they win, it makes you look good. Sheehan likes to party. Fresh melon juice, Shane. You mean Shane as in Shane McMahon? Fresh lemon juice? Let me know on the comment section below. So yeah, it makes you look good when your former opponent wins later on. It sort of is like this in wrestling. It's called the rub, right? For those of you that understand pro wrestling jargon, it's called the rub. So if your opponent did good later on in a fight that is beyond you, that is right after you, it makes you look good. That's the same thing with Conor McGregor. Why is he always praising Jose Aldo even after knocking him out in 13 seconds? Well, because the better that Jose Aldo does, the better that it looks for his resume. So Toxic Gameplay here says it's crazy because after Benoit's death, they said they rarely mentioned Randy Orton becoming the youngest champion because it was tied to Benoit. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So in turn, what you're doing is you're actually damaging Randy Orton's legacy. Because how many people know that Randy Orton was the youngest world champion ever? I mean, he is literally the Mike Tyson of professional wrestling, if you think about it. But you'll never know that because of the guy that he had to beat to do it. So yeah, that's unfortunate, but it's a business decision that they had to make. And you know what, man? I don't know. Look, there's different types of people out there. You never know what kind of people there are out there in the world, and you don't know what type of sensibilities they have. But I cannot tell you one WWE fan that would stop watching WWE because WWE decided to mention that Randy Orton became the youngest world champion of all time, and he had to do it fighting Chris Benoit. Right? I don't know one WWE fan or any wrestling fan for that matter that would really care. But in corporate sensibilities and in PR, it's a completely different story because you don't know what other people are out there. And the tides shift all the time when it comes to public opinion. So let's keep that in perspective.
They're back on the air, Wrestlemania coverage. We're watching to see if anything else goes down. Roman Reigns rolling around, checking his teeth. We saw Tiffany lost some teeth earlier tonight, so anything is possible as far as that goes. Seth Rollins staring like a menacing psychopath into the camera. Looks like a psych.
Toxic Gameplay says, bro, you are intelligent as F, bro. Well, thank you very much, man. And you know what? This is the reason why I decided to make a YouTube channel is because I've studied all different types of subjects from, you name it, right? History, political science, obviously PR and journalism. So I have vast knowledge of these things along with martial arts. So I figured why not share it with the world, right? And share it with the world in a subject that I'm really interested in, which is combat sports. So thank you for the compliment and thank you for always supporting me. Toxic Gameplays. I really appreciate you, my man.
Psychotic lion, to be honest. But yeah, I want you guys to go ahead and vote right now. Let us know what you thought of our WrestleMania tonight. It was something. It was something, but I also want to shout out because obviously on Patreon, guys, we have a record-breaking situation on Patreon. Me, the right way.
Let's hear what Joe Cronin has to say
Yeah,
here.
I thought this match was probably the most exciting when you look at, everything that was mixed up into everything, and these three big names and what's going to happen. But, in the end, it was just like nothing's on the line really, but like what Paul Heyman's on the line, I guess. Like, I don't know. Like, we couldn't really figure out, like, what's on the line here. Paul Heyman, that's what it really was about, was what is Paul Heyman going to do? The whole entire match is about, what's Paul Heyman going to do? Who is he going to side with? And, of course, all of us are sitting here saying for the past couple of weeks, oh, he's going to turn on both and then join.
Yeah, so he says, crazy how China has a page, but Chris doesn't. You know what? Triple H was with China, right? And then obviously he got rid of China and then went with Stephanie. I mean, wow, man. If you really think about it, Triple H destroyed China, right? Because obviously she was never the same afterwards. Man, this is what I love about WrestleMania nights, man. You guys are bringing out a whole new, different, vast knowledge that I have of professional wrestling as somebody who grew up watching it, right? I mean, obviously, I don't have a belt, with the WWE for no reason, right? There's a reason why I have this belt because I am a fan. I was a fan of the WWE, and then to a certain extent, it did somehow, I think, influence my trajectory in MMA to a certain degree, even though I was obviously doing real fighting and real martial arts while I was watching the WWE. But yeah, I think like most kids, right? I think there's a crossover. There's a lot of kids out there that train martial arts but also watch the WWE. So
Join Seth. Everyone's saying that. So everybody knew that. Everybody said that. And so, you're like, well, maybe something else is going to happen because that seems too, that just seems obvious, right? At this point, like everybody knows that's what they're doing, right? Like, so they're definitely going to do something different, right? No, no, like that's not, they did exactly that. That's exactly what they did, man. But it's great to have you guys here tonight. We're going to go through every single match. We'll go on. So that match went from don't give a crap to, oh my God, that's the one I'm looking forward to. For the most to, I said I would open the they're liking it. See what I'm saying though? You see what I'm saying about that? Like, that's crazy. Like, a lot of people are loving it. I'm seeing so many people hating on it in the chat. And then even Twitter, people are sending me messages.
They said seems like the first time they did was with Owen Hart because he doesn't have a page or gets mentioned. Was it Owen Hart? He never got mentioned, huh? I think they did that because it made the company look bad again, right? Think about this. Who is solely responsible for the death of Owen Hart? I mean, it has to be the WWE, right? You can't put that on the Kansas City arena that they were there that night. You can't put that on them because it is the WWE that is the show. It is the WWE that provides the theatrics, that provides the stunts and things of that nature. You're only renting the arena. That's it. Yeah, the reason why they footage of his death hasn't been released, and with good reason. With good reason why it hasn't been released, right?
Messages like, "Geez, that was not good," but people are pretty much liking it. For the most part, I'm surprised. I would honestly give this a blah. I would give it a blah. I wouldn't give it a bad. I wouldn't give it an amazing. I'd say somewhere between blah and okay is what we got tonight. I'd probably have to. I think I'd have to reserve myself to click in the blah. Yeah.
Yeah, CM Punk should have never went to AEW. He did great tonight. He said Toxic Gameplay says people are weird, man. They'd probably talk shit, no respect these days. Yeah, that you're absolutely right about that.
Once again, I don't think Jey Uso had a great match. I don't think that was a great match. It was okay to start the show, and it was all right-ish.
So, in other words, what Joe is saying here, there's been a lot of matches here that were like okay tonight. They weren't exactly like extravagant. Here's the thing, right? You can't make every year extravagant. There was one year where Charlotte Flair fought Ronda Rousey, and I believe it was also Becky Lynch, and she came in with a helicopter, right? She was given a helicopter ride. Okay, now that's epic. You can't do that every year. There was one year where they had Triple H. I believe he. I think it was in Florida. Well, he came in with a group of these police officers in a bike. Well, you can't do that every year because you're not always going to be able to get a hold of a police force that is willing to do that. They have some years where they have this Japanese symphony, right? During Sting's entrance for WrestleMania 30, if you guys remember back 10 years ago in the Bay Area, they brought in people that play violins, or they bring in people that are like in bands or in choirs to do like all these different performances, right? You can't do that every year. So, therefore, every year is going to look different, and every year may look extravagant, and then some years it may not. But the one thing Triple H wanted to emphasize with everybody was this. He wanted to emphasize that you guys are the audience. Just sit back and watch the show. Stop trying to critique it. I see what he's saying, and at the same time, I don't, right? Because everybody always criticizes a movie or a TV show. They'll say something like, "Oh, well, I can't believe such and such died in this particular TV show. I can't believe it." Right? I just can't believe it. Or you hate it, or man, why did they have to make that guy in a Soprano snitch? Why did he have to be the snitch? Or this and that, right? Well, you don't control the show. You're not the writer. But it seems that the input for how WWE should be written is a lot more pronounced than it is for, let's say, The Sopranos or any other TV show. And I think that's the difference in the interactive order that wrestling has in comparison to, let's say, other forms of entertainment. Fresh Melon Juice says, tell us about your parents' home country. What happened? Was it a religious war? So Fresh Melon Juice, that's a very good question. And you know what? I will answer that question, but not right now. And I'm going to tell you where I'm going to answer that. I have a members only page where I talk about a wide variety of different subjects. Matter of fact, let me give you a taste of what I put up in my members stream only section. Let me see what I put up here. So, okay. This is what I have for my members section. Remember I told you about Travis Fulton, right? The guy who has the most fights in MMA. This is a little bit of a taste of what I have in my members section only. A personal question, if I may. Have you ever knocked someone out? Yes, of course. Yes. In the streets, and yes, also in amateur kickboxing. So the fighter that I'm about to talk about in this current moment of time right now is Travis Fulton. Now, a lot of people don't know who Travis Fulton is. Let me explain a little synopsis here, okay? He died while in custody for child pornography charges, okay? And this was at the age... So you heard that? They're talking about child pornography, and that's literally what Travis Fulton went down for. Man, you are a pretty solid dude, too. Thank you, my man. Thank you for that. You know, I try to be as well-rounded as I can. I'm trying to learn about Muslims and their intentions in the Western world. Okay, so that's very interesting, Fresh Melon Juice. Well, I'll tell you this, right? Obviously, I'm a YouTuber, or at least I'm trying to be, right? I want to, do really good at it. I want to be successful at it. And ultimately, that is all that I really look forward to do in this country. Now, obviously, being a YouTuber, you can do that anywhere in the world. However, I think as somebody who's an American or has an American citizenship or somebody that lives in the United States, in particular in California, I think that gives me a bit of an advantage more than anybody else out there in the world. Now, obviously, MMA Guru has an advantage as well, being from London, being English, being from the UK. That's okay, that's all well and good. That's his advantage. My advantage is that yes, I have this background where I come from this part of the world, but then at the same time, I'm also a Californian where I live in this part of the world and I have a different culture, surrounding me, or a culture that I've assimilated in some kind of way. Playboy says, what is this belt, brother? This is a replica of the WWE belt. Who gave it to you? We have to check that moment. No, it's a WWE belt, my man. Obviously, I'm just wearing it for the occasion, and whatnot. It's a shame these days these kids will never play the real WWE game, SmackDown versus Raw. Yeah, that was good too back in the day. How about back in 97, 98? There was a game called Raw is War. But yeah, back to my members only section that I'm promoting here for you guys. Here's a little clip of what to expect in that particular section, real quick. Each of 44, and this was literally the same time frame that Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier, the last fight, which was in 2020. So that heavyweight that had the most fights in MMA, he died on the same night that Conor McGregor and Dustin Poirier were fighting. And I talk about that in the members only section. It is called Members Only Exclusive Travis Fulton, pedo, and the most MMA fights. Okay, so he was a pedophile, but he also had the most fights in the UFC's heavyweight division, if not all of MMA, because obviously being able to fight weekly, he was able to do that due to the fact that he was a heavyweight. He didn't have to worry about weighing in differently every year. So I have a video on that. What are some other videos that I have on my members only section? Well, how about Little Dirk? Do you guys remember when Little Dirk got caught up 5 months ago in the FBI raid? I talk about in here whether Little Dirk is a Muslim or not. Well, this is members exclusive only video where I'm going to give you raw and uncut views of certain takes and topics that are going on in the world, in particular right now with Little Dirk. So let's ask the legit question, right? Is Little Dirk a Muslim? And, well, the answer that a lot of people would say is obviously yes. Being that he displays it, he's shown it, you've seen him wear Galabaya in some events. Maybe that was Dubai, maybe that was somewhere local, maybe that was going to a mosque in Chicago of some sort. But before I go on and answer that topic, let me just say from a street's perspective, right? I'm really surprised that somebody who's from Chicago would come and really bust down on people in LA. So that's another members only exclusive right there. Another video of that. I'm going to do more members only exclusive. You guys come in, join the members only, very cheap for a monthly price. We're talking about like $1 or $2 or something like that. And I'm going to offer you guys some raw and uncut content, stuff that, well, let's just say that I would not put out in a wider public, right? And Fresh Melon Juice says here, pedo fights. Yeah, apparently that guy, Travis Fulton, he offed himself in prison, and that was the same night Conor McGregor fought Dustin Poirier, and we're back in full circle because here's Conor McGregor still not with a fight, but he did show up for the Tucker Carlson interview, which I thought was interesting, obviously, because, well, I think he's using it to run for public office in Ireland, and I don't know how that's going to work out, man. I don't know if he really has what it takes to be president of Ireland, man. I really don't know. I don't know, man. But I will say that Conor McGregor is he's an idealist. Uh, I don't want to say he's delusional. Okay, well, I think I could say that. I think he is delusional, but his delusionality, I think, really was helpful in terms of, let's say, uh, helpful in the fight world, helpful in athletic endeavors. But was it helpful in the world of politics? And I'd have to question that. But well, anyways, yeah, let's get back more on WrestleMania and Joe Cronin here. Let's hear what he has to say here.
But yeah, it wasn't that great of an opening. I mean, it was for the crowd and for the momentum and for how everybody felt about it. And I was pumped up when the shit first started and the Yeet flags came out, and out comes Uso from the entrance. That was a great entrance, great response. They juiced the crowd just like they wanted. I thought that was brilliant.
Fresh Melon Juice says it's enough for him to use his platform to. I'm assuming you are talking about Conor McGregor running for president. Fresh Melon Juice also says, show what's happening in the community. Show what's happening in the community. Okay.
I booked this to open the show as well. I said I would open the show with Jey Uso for weeks. They did. So, I mean, I'm all in as far as what they did. What else could they do, to be honest? And quite honestly, Jey Uso put on a better performance.
Little Dirk's music. I'm going to be honest with you, right? I'm more into West Coast rap, but I don't mind Dirk's music. And I think him being Muslim, I think sort of gave me a little bit more intrigue to his life story situation that he has going on with the feds and yeah, his music as well, right? All very interesting stuff. Obviously, very interesting person, but a person that is going through a lot right now. But I do elaborate on that. Come tap into my members section only. Guys, it's literally only $1 a month, right? $1 or $2 a month at most. I have two different sections of it. One is Fighter Secret and MMA events, and the other is Islam and MMA. Those are the two components of my member stream. Now, what I talk about with Islam and MMA, Fresh Melon Juice, I think you would be very interested in. I think you would be very fascinated by some of the things that I talk about in that section. If you want to join that, that's a little bit more. That's about maybe like $2.99 a month, very cheap. So we're talking about $1 to $3 for memberships of my community section, and yeah, I think you guys would enjoy it, right? Especially being that I have an audience that has an increasing curiosity with things outside of MMA, right? Like I think most MMA fans would, right? And I think that's why having an MMA page is the best way to express other forms of political conversations that you want to bring about in an MMA platform. Because yeah, but we don't follow the laws of our religion. Our faith becomes a worthless title. Yeah, I see what you're saying there. Toxic gameplays. Yeah, very true.
In this match than he did with his brother last year. So because of that, I'll give him that because it's better than what he did with his brother, and that's probably because Gunther's better than his brother, right, in the ring as a singles competitor. And that's something I would have brought up if I was Michael Cole or Pat McAfee or somebody like that. I would have said, this is about so much that Jey Uso started to climb this hill slowly. But it's also about the fact that, quite honestly, let's be honest, as a tag team competitor with his brother, this guy had it easy. They could win over a lot of people easily. They were the best. As a tag team, Jey Uso.
He says, I remember when Tank would come to the boxing gym in ATL around 2014 and 17, he would knock everyone out and have people ask about him. Yeah, man. Yeah, that's how you build a reputation out there, right? I mean, you knock some fools out in the gym and, and yeah, obviously in the amateurs as well and into the pros. Yeah, he was knocking out dudes who was 6 foot, weighing 160 pounds. Yeah, Tank has that kind of power that can translate in those weight classes. at least in the lower divisions, right? I mean, the higher you go in the pros and and in the weight, I mean, obviously he would have more of a problem at that at that particular stature.
So was in a almost 10 out of 10 tag team, maybe one of the best tag teams of all time. But as a singles competitor, it is a completely different dynamic. And quite honestly, Jay has started from the bottom and he's worked his way all the way to this point, which is the top. But now, can he ascend and take the crown from the top? Because he hasn't before, and he hasn't been able to, and he hasn't been able to win a lot of big singles matches. And this is the biggest one he'll ever have. But is he ready? And just acknowledging the fact that
So Toxic Gameplays says a lot of fighters here hate him for that in regards to Tank knocking out a lot of people in the ATL gyms. You know what? That reminds me a lot about TJ Dillashaw. TJ Dillashaw sort of had that same trajectory when he was up here in Sacramento, right? When he was here training at Team Alpha Male up here in Sacramento, there were a lot of guys that didn't like TJ, especially guys that were in his weight class. Obviously, all the guys that were in a heavier weight class or guys that were below him or guys that were nowhere near his radar to even fight, to begin with. TJ was very much friendly to everybody else. But if he knew you were in his weight class and he knew that he had to see you on sparring day because you guys had to match up due to the fact that you guys were the same weight, then yeah, he would absolutely demolish you and he would do it in a very brutal and humiliating fashion if he could.
that as a singles competitor, he's like a 6 or 7 out of 10, success wise. But as a tag team competitor, he's like a 9 out of 10. So he's at a disadvantage right here, working as a singles competitor. But can he fight through all of that inexperience as a singles competitor?
Elijah Pierce hates him so much, and the WBA welterweight champion Brian Norman hates him as well. Interesting. Okay. Some names that I have, really yet to have heard, but yeah, I mean, maybe somewhere down the line, if they are in the same weight class, maybe they could fight it out, or I don't know if they're even in the same weight class.
Competitor to actually beat somebody who's done it that way their entire career in Gunther. And that's what I would have said if I was on commentary. They didn't really bring that up at all. But I thought that was a little thing that they could have added in, and I liked it. Oh shit! Right? Just a lot of 6 and 7 out of 10 matches that were just like that was nice. I think if you were to force me to watch the
Toxic Gameplay says Brian Norman is a WBA welter champ. Okay, so 147. Tank sparred him before he was a champion, and Brian beat Tank's ass so bad that he lied and photoshopped Brian with a broken nose. Yeah, you know what? I think that's excusable. Look, if Bilal Muhammad beat up Islam Makhachev in sparring, does it really matter? I mean, it kind of does, but then again, it doesn't. It doesn't matter because obviously Bilal Muhammad is supposed to be the bigger guy. But what if Islam beats up Bilal Muhammad in the training room? Would it matter? I believe it would. It would matter probably because, let's be honest, right? Is Islam probably the more prestigious champion than Bilal Muhammad? In terms of popularity, yes. Okay, so it would mean a whole lot more. But in reality, it doesn't mean much for their legacy. Angelo is, hey, what's going on, my man? I remember you. You were from the stream where we talked about with Dave Portnoy, the Dave Portnoy stream that I did, I believe, when I was driving around downtown that day. But yeah, shout outs to Angelo from LA, my man from LA right here. Speaking of LA, check this out right here. Representing LA, got the little Santa Monica get up right now. So, yup, I subbed. Remember? Yeah, my man, I remember that. Thank you, my man. I think you are now the 730th person that subscribed. Well, at least now I'm up to 730. I don't know what exact number you were in the description line or whatever, or if they even tell you that. But yeah, thanks to you and among few others following that, I am now up to 730. So shout outs to that. And you guys never know, right? If I get up to 1,000 subscribers, which isn't too far away. Perhaps maybe I'll do a freestyle rap or maybe a crip walk for everybody on the shorts. So either way, my man said, "Nice, awesome, yeah." I had to go to the bank that day. All right, that's what's up, my man. Um, Toxic Gameplay says Elijah Pierce has a video of him, which is up still, of him outboxing Tank. The day he lit up Tank in minutes. Delete this before I upload the video of me knocking you out. Look, I think it's quite petty when fighters bring up sparring footages. This is something you have to take into account when two fighters are sparring on the day that they're sparring. There's a couple of things to take into account. Suppose I go in a sparring session, it was my second training session, right? What if in my first training session I had a hard lift, right? Where I had nothing but leg day. So now I'm going in there compromised against you who did nothing maybe for the past 2 days, and then you're going in there fresh with no aches or pains from any previous training sessions. Of course you're going to do better than me. Of course you're going to get the best of me. It happens. What happens if you came from a sprint session and then you go in there against a guy who's fresh? How about this? At least this is more prominent in MMA than it is in boxing, because in MMA, we sort of switch up sparring partners every round, right? What if in round one, I took on the best guy in the world, and round two, I took on a guy who's not the best guy in the world, but is big enough to hurt me. And now I'm in there worn out and hurt going into the third round against a guy who had lesser competition in the last two rounds. So I think that sparring is like what Allen Iverson said when the media asked him why he kept missing practice. And you know what he said? Dog, it's practice. We talking about practice. We talking about practice. Let me see if I can bring up that audio of Allen Iverson saying that. Practice. We talking about practice, dog. Let's see where did right here.
We talking about practice, not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice, not a game, not the game that I, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
So next time somebody brags about beating you in the gym and sparring, this is what you got to say to them.
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice, not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. We talking about practice.
We talking about practice, man. I mean, look, sparring is indicative of a lot of things. Okay, like for example, all right, look, right now I'm not an active fighter, right? I'm not an active fighter. I don't have any fights going on. I don't know if you do or if you compete or still compete or never competed. But if me and you got in the cage right now and we sparred and you got the best of me or I got the best of you, believe me, it's going to either hurt us or it's either going to fuel us in some kind of way. And let me tell you why. Because obviously I told you I'm not an active fighter, right? I don't have any active fights coming up. But if me and you were to spar tomorrow, that is a fight for me. And that is a fight for you. And the same goes how that's a fight for me and a fight for you. It's the same goes as that's a glory for you and, and maybe dismay and, a hardship for me, right? Something that I'm going to, man, that guy beat me up at the gym. So now it's going to linger on me, all week long or something like that, right? Or if you got the best of me, it's going to be like, oh man, you know what? I beat up, Kyrie, the MMA YouTuber. You know what I mean? Like it really is like that because, we're not active fighters. At least I'm not. I don't know if you are or what you have going on. But if we're talking about Tank and Elijah, who are active fighters, in my humble opinion, brother, I don't think they have right to brag about practice. And Allen Iverson, what do you think of this, brother Allen Iverson? You tell me what you think of people beating other people in sparring.
Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice, not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man.
We talking about practice, man. A fighter could be in the gym working on something. What if a coach says focus on working on your jab? Could be Jim could be in working on something. Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying, right? Like again, difference of whatever it is that each person goes through. So that's why, man, it's hard for me to take anything out of out of practice. This is why Floyd didn't allow recording of his sparrings. Correct. Because Floyd, would run miles and miles and miles, right? He would train very hard on the calisthenic side as well, right? So only God knows what his condition was before he went to the gym. And, even Mike Tyson himself has admitted that he's been beat up by people in sparring before because of how tired he was. It's just what it is. Look, I'll give you an example. Something that I experienced in wrestling, right? I believe this was in high school. So I wrestled in the same team with this kid named Charles Muller, right? You ask anybody in Union, New Jersey, who Charles Muller was. He was the top 120-pound wrestler. So okay, he was a 120-pound wrestler at the time. I was a 150, 60-pound wrestler, right around that range. Okay. Uh, we got into it in practice. I beat him up, and he's the champion. Bro, let me tell you, I felt like I had beaten uh, Dan Gable that day. I swear to you, that's what it felt like. It felt like I beaten, what's his name? Gable Stevenson, another Gable, obviously named after Gable. That's what it felt like. It felt like I beat Gable Stevenson. But you know what? We talking about practice, dog. We're talking about practice. I did manage to pin him in the sparring roles that we had going on. I managed to pin him. He was a champion. But in the back of my mind, I knew that I couldn't be too happy about this because this is a guy who walked in here, okay, tired. And by the way, we were playing King of the Hill. For those of you that have wrestled before and know what a King of the Hill game is, you know exactly how you feel after taking down 6 to 7, 8 guys. And guess what? I was guy number 8. So what are we talking about here?
We talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man.
Yeah, felt like when Ali beat Foreman, huh? Yeah, that's what I'm saying, man. That's exactly what it felt like, right? Did they go did they goat your ego after? Did they goat your ego after? What did they goat your ego after? Do you mean that it didn't increase my ego after? Well, I tell you what, right? That's why we're talking about practice, right? I guess practice, you know what they say, practice makes perfect, and sometimes practice makes your ego.
Man, we talking about practice. Not a game, not a game, not a game. We talking about practice.
We talking about practice. Shout out to Allen Iverson on that one. All right, more on the WWE night right here. Did they go after your ego? Yeah, let me know what you meant by that. Toxic.
He said, Joe, you've got to pick 3 matches. I don't know I'm not sure exactly what I would pick because the good matches were sort of just all the same.
Yeah, Toxic. Half of these guys, Toxic says in ATL, upload sparring of them beating up guys who just started. And I would imagine that is a big no-no in the etiquettes of gym membership and boxing gyms, I would assume, right? I mean, in MMA gyms, it's obviously also like that, right? It's kind of frowned upon, unless, of course, you're really working on something and it's something you and your coach are going to look back and say, hey, look, check out this sparring footage. Maybe this is where we could do something different or this and that. Fresh Melon Juice says some dude on Rampage's podcast said Jones got beat up by fighters in practice, but he smashed them in the cage. Yeah, Amagov. I remember who you're talking about. His name was Carlos Condit. He was the one that had mentioned that. I didn't watch the full clip of that, but I believe it was on a shorts that I saw that. Goad your ego means like stroke. Oh, did it stroke? Of course it did. Charles Muller was probably one of the best wrestlers of all time in high school wrestling in New Jersey. And he was my teammate, and I got to roll with this guy every day. And yeah, beating his ass, even though it was practice, of course it boosted my ego. But you know what? I'm going to be honest with you. I think a part of him, sort of laid down for me. Because look, I saw in his eyes, he's like, listen, I don't want to deal with this. This is the eighth guy that I'm wrestling here in this room. I don't need this shit, right? You know what I mean? I don't need any of this. That's what he felt like. So that's the Charles Muller that I beat up, right? I didn't beat up the Charles Muller where I had to go down his weight class, which, by the way, was at 125, okay, or something to that extent, maybe a 121 at the time. And then I was like wrestling at like, the 150s all the way up to the 60s. So it's like I don't go down that weight to even entertain that, right? So by the end of the day, I was beating up a guy that was cutting weight, a guy that was wrestling like six guys before me, and then me being the seventh and eighth guy. And yeah, that's really what it comes down to. Like Toxic Gameplay says, like, man, I remember this guy, Najee Lopez, knocked out this new boxer who just started, then stepped over his unconscious body. ATL went crazy. So they went crazy because they felt like it was like, how do I say this? What was it, like an immoral issue that they had a problem with? He uploaded it. Toxic Gameplay says, is that what it is? Were they upset? Were people upset that he uploaded a video of knocking out a fighter that just started? Because if that's the case, man, I could understand, right? Like, it's bad enough that you film sparring footages of you and another high level guy, but then you as a high level guy, you're over here knocking out beginners. It just seems like, a very toxic situation. ATL boxing scene is so toxic. They were like, great knockout, man. And others were like, why, man? Yeah, I can see that. So Toxic Gameplays. That's interesting that your name is Toxic and you're from ATL. I wonder if that's the reason why you named your screen name that, because you come from a very toxic place. I tell you what, I'm a West Coast guy now, but growing up in the East Coast, I will say there is a toxic element of that going on there. Like the dude didn't even have any boxing shoes. He wore Sperry's in the ring. Yeah, I know exactly what you mean. Like he wasn't a guy that was necessarily out there to prepare himself to be a boxer to any degree or anything like that. He was just there to, hold hands and kick cans and, sort of try his luck into it. But I'm sure that experience probably really knocked his will down a notch, right? Like, I think that he stopped getting motivated. Najee was fighting in the USA Boxing Nationals that year. Yeah, so obviously this is a guy that is way high level, way too high level, than this guy, and he decided to go and do that. So I don't know, man. Yeah, it's not very nice, not a very nice thing to do. I would imagine. So more on WrestleMania right now.
Kind of good. CM Punk is limping into the back. Oh, he's with Jackie Redmond, guys. CM Punk and Jackie Redmond.
A good time to approach you for a comment, but can I get something from you about what just happened out there at the hands of
one of your lifelong friends and allies?
Oh.
Toxic Gameplay says, just be careful if you ever train down here. Oh, for sure I will. That's the thing with boxing gyms, right? You never want to go to just any random boxing gym. You could do that with MMA because obviously there's still a culture of toxicity in MMA, but not in the level that it is with boxing. There was this one gym out here in Sacramento called Carnage, right? There was this guy named Jamie Jara. He used to fight in Bellator. And yeah, man, it was just a toxic gym. Everything down there was just like, hey, come in here, get knocked out or learn how to not get knocked out. And that was the way that they learned how to fight. Toxic Gameplay says, when my last boxing coach had Douglas Lima and Rafael Asuncao in the gym, he had a no phone policy when they sparred us boxers. Of course, man, because how bad would it look if you got an MMA fighter that comes in there and spanks everybody, right? It just in boxing rules alone. And it's not like that doesn't happen because guess what? MMA guys are trained to punch as well. So if we're going to go in a boxing ring, we're going to go punch for punch and we're going to see who has the better punch. So, yeah, man, that is a possibility. I mean, look at what Paulie Malignaggi, what happened to him against Conor McGregor in a sparring match, man. He got spanked. He got spanked. And then the Artem fight in the bare knuckle BKFC fight, then we started to realize, wow, you know what? It wasn't Cap at all. Yeah, Paulie and Connor was diabolical. For real, it was. It was. He brought him in there to spar only to beat his ass because he was talking a gang of smack, right? But again, what happened? Even though Connor got a win in the sparring room over Paulie Malignaggi, it was Connor who lost to Floyd Mayweather in the ring. So just keep that in mind.
Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game. We're talking about practice, man. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not a game. Not a game. We're talking about practice. Not a game. Not the game that I go out there and die for and play every game like it's my last. Not the game.
Paulie is still a two-time world champion, correct? Despite having no speed and power. Dude had a high IQ. Yeah, I think at the end of his career, he had some hand problems, which I think caused him a lot of issues in being able to punch or knock somebody out. So, yeah, that is something to take into consideration there. Let's see here. What else? Okay, more on wrestling. Yeah, he's from Jersey too, right? New York, New York. Paulie Malignaggi is a New York guy, but yeah, same region. We're pretty much the same region. That's why they call it the tri-state. We're all the same culture, but we're three different states, meaning New Jersey, New Jersey, and Connecticut. Connecticut is usually for the rich upper class Anglo-Saxons that live in that part of the world. I'm saying that because he had that Jersey Shore hairstyle back in the days. Yes, it's a Jersey Shore style, but it's really encompassing New York, Long Island, the East Coast in general, right? So the tri-state trifecta and what have you.
Wow. Punk is just staring at her. Wow. He just stared at her like crazy. Now he's just walking away from her. That is what CM Punk would do, so I'm glad he did that.
All right, well, we're not gonna.
CM Punk stared at Jackie Redmond and then walked away. Hey, he stared at Jackie Redmond like she stole his WrestleMania tickets like Bullfrog, so that's understandable.
Toxic Gameplay says, damn, Connecticut dudes act so hard though, man. My man got the T. My man got the T. What you mean by that? Yeah, dude, that's the thing with Connecticut dudes is, there's a lot of Latin kings out there, a lot of Bloods as well, right? Obviously the East Coast is more like, there's a lot of Bloods in the East Coast, which is crazy, right? But that's a whole nother topic and a whole nother story to talk about. Usually what they do with the Bloods in the East Coast is that they take up a lot of West Coast ideological gang terminologies that, believe it or not, come from West Coast Crips. So, for example, you got the 8-Tray Bloods in New York, right? That gang that Tekashi 6ix9ine was affiliated with. What a lot of people don't know is that 8-Tray is a Crip gang that originated in California. By the way, in the same neighborhood close to Tukey Williams. So when you're talking about Avalon or when you're talking about 8 Trey Gangster, Crips, or this and that. Those guys are, yeah, pretty much the originators of the Crip system as we know it. And obviously in the East Coast, they adopted that with the blood sets, but it was actually from a book by the Crip named Monster Cody. So Toxic Gameplay says here, so many bloods on the East Coast, same in ATL. Now that's crazy. I didn't know there were a lot of bloods in ATL. I know there were a lot of Rolling 60s Crips in in ATL, and I think Brick Baby may have had something to do with that because obviously Brick Baby from No Jumper is a Rolling 60s affiliate from the actual Rolling 60s neighborhood. And then when he went to college out there, he may have yeah, or allegedly whatever, right? You know what I mean? May have recruited a few guys here and there. So many bloods on the East Coast, same in ATL, bro. That's crazy. I didn't know y'all were so many bloods. Yeah, there's more bloods in the East Coast than there is out here in the West Coast. I think the bloods out here in the West Coast are a minority, and it's more majority Crips, right? Like, okay, take for example, Stockton. Um, One of the first cities that I had lived at when I moved to California. There's a lot of Crips in that area. Long Beach, down in LA, a lot of Crips. LA altogether, mostly Crips. Of course, there's a lot of Bloods out there, but it's mostly Crips. In the East Coast, it's Crip minority and Blood majority, right? So we have we have every gang here, Bloods, Crips, but neighborhood was a gangster disciple. So yeah, that's the thing about the South, right? What I find really interesting is that it is a different dynamic because look, they do have Bloods, Crips, but then they also have the other Midwest gangs like the Disciples, Vice Lords, Latin Kings, all of that. Well, I don't know about Latin Kings because then they would require to have a significant Latino population, but I would imagine maybe MS-13 is the dominant Hispanic group in that. In Cali, I think it's one blood for every 4 Crips. Yeah, that's about right. That's about right. I think there's a lot more Crips in California than there are Bloods. But you also got to understand this, right? Uh, I don't know how it is in other states. Maybe it's different. Maybe it's the same, or maybe it's somewhere in between. But here, a Crip or a Blood doesn't wake up saying, you know what, I'm going to go hate or hurt a Blood or a Crip for the sake of the fact that they're from the opposite side or opposite color. In fact, there are Crips and Bloods that are affiliated with each other, and then there are Bloods that hate on other Bloods, and then there are Crips that hate on other Crips. It really is dependent upon the different types of relationships that you have with these people. Toxic Gameplay says, yeah, we have Latin Kings here. My school was 50% black and 50% Mexican. North ATL has a lot of Mexicans. So here's the thing, right? The Latin Kings are not necessarily a Mexican organization, although they're not opposed to bringing in Mexicans. I would say that the majority of the people that they've had, obviously from an East Coast perspective, were mostly Puerto Ricans, maybe Dominicans, Cubans. 18th Street Gang is the biggest here. Okay, so 18th Street, that is West Coast derivative. So that is a Mexican gang. So Latin King. So again, the South literally has everything. Every gang that is in the United States is in the South. And that's the way that I understand it. Because out here in the West Coast, it is only Bloods, Crips, Essays, Norteños, and Asians and Samoans, and that's it. Right? And then there's Armenians too, and maybe a sprinkle of some biker gangs and white supremacist gangs and everything else in between, right? That's all that we have in Cali. But then in the South, you got all of that plus white supremacist gangs, which obviously is more geared towards what do you call it? What do you call that? The KKK, because yeah, that's what it is. Yeah, we even have Asian gangster Crips here too, so that doesn't surprise me as well. Doesn't surprise me as well. So I mean, yeah, they have everybody in the South. So pretty much the South is the true gang haven of the world, right? I mean, we often say that California is, but I just think that California is the gang capital of the world when it comes to making it look good to a certain degree, right? But other than that, yeah, I think that's really all there is to it. So, all right. Speaking of which, let's finish off with WrestleMania stuff. Let's see what we can get off here, and
Man, Jackie Redmond is unbelievably hot. That's crazy. She somebody said that that's the hottest woman in the world. Wow. Okay, why don't you go marry her then? That's crazy. Triple H kissed Shawn Michaels last night. Yeah, I saw that. You know, we were looking. I was freeze framing it. I was slowing it down so I could look at it and play with myself a little bit. Yeah, for sure. I did. I saw that. It was amazing. I had a great time with Triple H kissing Shawn Michaels. No doubt about it.
Toxic Gameplay says, bro, this stream needs to be bigger. Well, inshallah, man, I hope that you can help me do that by spreading the word, letting everybody know. Every time I'm in a live chat, let everyone know, or even after a live chat, let everyone see the live chat and see the type of content that we display here. So tonight, WrestleMania 41, night one has concluded. The night started off with Jey Uso beating Gunter by submission, rear naked choke. That match lasted for 16 minutes. New Day defeats the War Raiders for the tag team championships. That match lasted 9 minutes, 15 seconds. Jade Cargill defeats Naomi by pinfall in a singles match, 9 minutes, 20 seconds. Jacob Fatu. How about this? I didn't know that, man. You got to understand, right? I don't watch wrestling on a normal basis. Obviously, uh, I heard that he was from Sacramento. I went crazy. I was like, wow, okay, so we got ourselves a Sac versus LA match against LA Knight, right? LA Knight came out with a Maserati, had somebody come in here driving him into the arena. The match ended in 10 minutes and 40 seconds. Toxic Gameplay says here, the Divas in the WWE look so much better now than they did. Okay. And then El Grande Americano defeats Ray Phoenix by pinfall singles match. 7 minutes and 55 seconds. Tiffany Stratton in the co-main event, 19 minutes and 10 seconds, defeats Charlotte Flair fair and square. And then the main event of the evening, Seth Rollins defeats Roman Reigns and CM Punk by pinfall. That was a 32-minute matchup, right? 32 minutes that match went. Anything is better than Vicky Guerrero. Oh, yeah, you know what? I remember the Vicky Guerrero days. Those were the days where I actually did really lock into wrestling every week because, you know what? Back then, there wasn't much MMA that there was now. So obviously, I had time to watch both, right? Well, now you don't really have time to watch both responsibilities outside of that, then it makes that even harder. But nonetheless, I just focus on MMA now. I have a channel to do that, and that's what it is. In another world, you were what? Okay, I think you were a wrestler. In another world, you were a wrestler. Got it. Okay. In another world, you were a wrestler. I didn't see the wrestler part there. Okay. So yeah, man. Well, a hardcore wrestling fan, and another time I was a hardcore wrestling fan. But yeah, I do remember the Vicky Guerrero days. That was when Chavo was there. That was when I believe she had that thing going on with Dolph Ziggler. But yeah, speaking of Dolph Ziggler, he's not there now. It's just a thing, right? The WWE has so much different types of stars that you can't fit them all in a single show. It's just impossible to do so, right? Obviously every year different people make the cut. Edge was my guy. I believe he was featured last year in WrestleMania, right? The Hardy brothers. Where are they now? Are they in the AEW? I believe. So tomorrow, night two, I'm going to be here for night two as well, and I don't know if I'll do a post fight reaction like this for night one, or just do it on the whole single live stream later on tomorrow. But on any regard, tomorrow is night 2. We will be here for that. Io Sky versus Bianca Belair, and then Ripley for the women's championship. Braun Breaker, Penta, Finn Balor, Dominic Mysterio. Fatal 4-way for the Intercontinental Championship. So there's an Intercontinental Championship match tomorrow. And then AJ Styles and Logan Paul. So I can't believe Logan Paul, he's not in the title picture. So I guess he must have been knocked off for his United States Championship belt. Damian Priest and Drew McIntyre in a street fight, Sin City, Las Vegas street fight. Now, I don't know what kind of storyline they had going on, but for them to accumulate it into a street fight, these guys must have had an insane backstory to get here. Liv Morgan, Raquel Rodriguez, Lyra Valkyra tag team championship, and then Randy Orton to be announced in a singles match because it was supposed to be Kevin Owens, but he got injured, and then Cody Rhodes and John Cena for the undisputed WWE Singles Championship. And that is all tomorrow. So, what did the comments here say? And some guys like the Boogeyman just disappeared. Yeah, I remember the Boogeyman. He was quite an interesting character. And you know what? Any of these guys, they could bring any of these guys right now, the whole crowd would pop, right? Let's say you brought in Dolph Ziggler tonight. The whole crowd would pop. You bring in Rusev, who, by the way, is going to show up in Monday Night Raw, according to some leaks that I've been watching this week. So this week, I've been really immersed in pro wrestling, right? Been watching a lot more, just looking at all the different stuff that they've had going on, different programmings, right? Because, it was just one of those weeks that got you interested in wrestling, and there wasn't much MMA going on. So it kind of gave you an opportunity to do that. So yeah, he said he still can't believe he used to eat real worms. Oh yeah, the Boogeyman, he used to do that, was his thing, right? So yeah, if he came out, the whole crowd would have popped. Let's say Kane, if Kane decided to come out, he would have popped. Obviously, Undertaker is no longer part of the WWE. If he came out, yeah, they would have all popped as well. But nonetheless, it was an okay night, right? It was an okay night. Obviously, the way that Triple H mentioned a lot of these fights not being as exciting or as suspenseful as they should is Triple H is saying, you know what we're trying to do is maintain a storyline all year round and not one size fits all, or one of these situations where we just basically give up the whole entree with just one sitting type of deal. But on any regard, let's see. Let's see what we can do here. Okay, I think we'll keep it going. We'll keep it going. I'm going to take a little intermission right now. We're going to keep the stream going, and then we'll see how we can go from here on another bonus stream. How do you balance working out with your regular adult responsibilities? Okay, so that's a great question. Toxic gameplays. How do you balance that out? Look, here's the thing, right? A lot of people that want to get into working out right now, it's going to be a lot harder for them. Let me tell you why it's not hard for me, okay? When I go work out, whether it's at a martial arts gym or whether it's at a fitness gym, my bag is full. I'll tell you right now, it's full because I bring different types of clothes because I got to go swim on top of that. Not only do I got to go swim, I got to bring an extra set of clothes, bring an extra set of, like commodities, like cleaning yourself or shampoo or this and that. There's a lot that you have to bring to the gym. And then not to mention a whole lot of water because you're not wanting to drink no tap water or anything like that. So you do a lot to bring yourself to the gym. So asking about balancing, I think that for people that never had a lifestyle of working out or training in sports or anything like that, I think they're going to have a very, very difficult time transitioning into a world where they have to, sort of immerse themselves into, training. training all the time or trying to create a schedule to do that, it becomes very difficult because you're not used to doing it, right? So if you're not used to doing it, then you're shocking your body. So what I'm saying is first get used to learning how to add those workout into your responsibilities depending on where it is. So for example, if let's say you're coming home from work and you're saying, "Oh, well, I'm tired, this and that." You can't say that you're tired. You have to go out there and you have to go work out, right? You have to make it a habit. But for people that are starting out, it's a very difficult habit to start. But you have to start somewhere. Okay, and that is my advice to that, because I can't give advice to somebody whose life I don't know personally. And better yet, for somebody's life who I don't know their daily habits or their daily routines and things of that nature. It's going to be very difficult for me uh, to give advice to people like that, right? But what I will say is the best way to answer your question is start building habits and then start building a schedule within those habits. Uh, this Big U video is calling my name. Bro, you dropped a Big U video? I did, yeah. I did drop a Big U video. It's on one of my live streams that I did. You are welcome to check it out after this one, or you can watch both. But I think, yeah, I think you will enjoy it as well as much as you enjoy this video as well. I did a Big View video 3 days ago, I believe. Dubs, one of the famous YouTubers, came and dropped in on my channel and said, "What's up?" So yeah, please go on and check that out if you will. For sure, great conversation, my man. Yeah, stay tuned because we got a bonus content coming up right now. But for now, what we got going on right now, I'm going to have a little bit of an intermission, and then I will be back for a bonus stream. Stay tuned. Don't go anywhere because I'm not going to cut off this stream yet. I'm just going to hold on just a second here. Get a little music going, and then yeah, just do a little intermission for show. Catch you. Then yeah, I'm still going to be here, my man. I'm just going to have a little bit of an intermission. Yeah, I'll see you in like probably less than 2 minutes or so. Donate plasma to amazing. You better watch what you say, and the things that you see. Existence in the world, when the words that you speak. If I ever rule the earth, there are things I would teach. Live a life to the fullest for the strongest, not the weak. Gotta watch what you say, and the things that you see. Existence in the world, for the words that you speak. If I ever rule the earth, there are things I would teach. Live a life to the fullest for the strongest, not the weak. Cause I'm a rise, nigga.
With a sauna, you can manage.
All right. So back for a little bonus stream. A couple of housekeeping notes here. What are some new videos I want to lead you guys to? Ooh, excuse me. Let's see here. What do we got? Oh, okay. So for the new video that I have, how about this? Conor McGregor versus Paddy Pimblett. Right, there's some beef going on. Dave Portnoy waves the Israeli flag. That's a new video that I have. Go check that out. Go check that out. It's on this section right here. Look, right here. That's the video I want you guys to check out. Conor McGregor versus Paddy came out a couple of hours ago. Run up the views on that one. Help me out on that one. And among other videos that I have out there. So, what are some interesting topics that we can, what are some interesting topics that we can talk about here? What? Oops, looks like the light had gone out on me right there. Okay, no big deal. We got some decent lighting here anyway. So, okay, so, oops. Hold on a second. Okay. Well, anyways, yeah, let's not delve into that. Okay, so what are some interesting topics that we can talk about after WrestleMania tonight, right? Like I said earlier, right? It was lackluster. It didn't seem like the best WrestleMania there was, but it goes back to what Triple H has said, right? Wrestling storylines are all year round. It's not a going out of sale business. So when you think of an out of sale business in combat sports, what comes to mind? Well, it's boxing. Boxing is literally the term for going out of business sale. And Dana White, who, by the way, was the honorable guest tonight in the UFC, was very much big on that particular subject matter at hand when it came to, let's say, going out of sale business. Whenever he talks about boxing, he would often cite and say, this is an going out of business sale or this and that, right? It's just, going out of business sale and whatnot or whatever, however he wants to put it, right? Is it a going out of sale? Is it a going out of business sale? Right, boxing. Is that really what we are dealing with here? Right? Is it really a going out of business sale? And if so, who are some examples of that in boxing? Okay, well, I can name a few people that are like that in boxing. How about Eddie Hearn? Right? Is Eddie Hearn like that? Would you consider Eddie Hearn as somebody that does going out of sale business sales? Well, let's analyze that, right? Let's analyze that. For one, Dana White thinks about what's going to happen tomorrow for the UFC. Eddie Hearn, like most boxing promoters, they think about how are we going to get our fighter to go over the line? And what exactly do they mean by when they say we're going to go over the line? Well, it's really as simple as this. When they say that we're going to go over the line, meaning that we're going to get the most amount of money for the most amount of clout that we can provide. Okay? So in other words, what exactly is it that they do? Well, you have somebody like Gennady Golovkin fighting Kell Brooks under the uh, under the leadership of Eddie Hearn, under the approval of Eddie Hearn. Even though this matchup in and of itself is extremely problematic to the long-term career of Kell Brook, it damn near blinded Kell Brook. You guys remember that? Do you remember how bad it was for Kell Brooks? He nearly went blind, with this particular matter. Hold on a second here. All right, here we go. Had to turn the light on for that one. Okay, so yeah, Kell Brook nearly went blind, with that matchup. Nearly went blind, due to the fact that he was taking that fight. Now, another one that is sort of a going out of business sale is something like Conor Benn taking on Chris Eubank. Now, look, a lot of people are looking at this matchup and they're thinking that maybe this matchup is even. Well, why do they think that? The reason why they think this matchup is even is due to the fact that Kell Brook, I'm sorry, not Kell Brook. Let's get off that. Chris Eubank and Conor Benn's dad had fought each other previously. So they think that this fight is somehow a 50-50 fight because at some point it was a 50-50 fight. But I don't know if I agree with that. I don't know if I agree with that because they are their own people. Look, in reality, Chris Eubank and Conor Benn, they're not an equal matchup. At least not with the type of level that Chris Eubank has gone out there and fought. So this is a very uneven matchup. What's the culprit here? Eddie Hearn is the promoter of Conor Benn. And he is trying to do a going out of business sale by putting him out there. Right? Whereas with the UFC, they think about long term. So again, when I'm bringing this up, how does this relate to the the WWE and what they did tonight in WrestleMania? Well, I told you they're not all about going out of business sales at all. They're not going to give you a happy ending storyline where everything just ends here tonight in WrestleMania. No, they have Monday Night Raw. They got Backlash. They have SummerSlam. And by the way, they had Cardi B earlier tonight promoting SummerSlam coming up. And even Michael Cole said on the microphone, hey, you know what? It's not that time yet. It's still WrestleMania season, but obviously we're here to promote SummerSlam that's coming up. So they're always coming up with the next new thing, the next best thing, the next situation to put themselves into. Whereas with everybody else and everybody else in combat sports, this is what they do. They do a going out of business sale rather than creating a business that is sustainable for a long period of time. That is what you have going on. So just something to think about. But WrestleMania was all right. It was all right. It was okay simply because what they are trying to do is bring you to the next event, right? So when a lot of people are complaining about fighter pay with the UFC and things of this nature, right? I get it. I understand why you would complain about, these particular matters at hand. I get it. At the same time, the UFC has to take all that money and invest it into the next event that they have going on. That's what you get with the UFC. And that's the reality of the situation with this particular sport. So, yeah, man, that's the reality of this situation. It's not a going out of business sale. It is a maintenance of, you know what? We have this going on and we got this going on. This is what I need to do next. That is it. That is what you have with the UFC, but that's not what you have with boxing, and that's what you have with the WWE, and that's not what you have with other wrestling organizations, and that's why the WWE is number one at what they do. So yeah, that is the reason why we have what we have going on. So look, I think that's all that we really have for night one. Obviously, night two for WrestleMania continues. Let us like and subscribe. Don't forget to tap in, like, share, tell a friend to tell a friend. And guys, I will see you in the next one, inshallah.